Welcome to our Spooky Scary Saturdays. Our video that we hopped on into this week was Alfred Hitchcock's very own classic Psycho. Before we roll on into that movie review, talk, opinion sort of piece, and get ready with me, of course, if you are new here, welcome. I do a lot of beauty related and spooky related videos, and I will be posting a Spooky Scary Saturday every Saturday long heading up to Halloween. So go ahead, do yourself a favor, subscribe and that bell icon to be notified when I upload new videos. Also, just so we are aware, with this get ready with me here, this was my work outfit, and when I am at work I do wear a mask usually, so I only do makeup from about the nose, cheeks up. You will see my hair is looking different at the end of the video and now, as opposed to when we get into the get ready with me, and that's because we were playing around with some colors today at work. Unfortunately, I was not able to film that, but I will the next time that I play with my color, because I know a lot of you have been asking what kind of color I use on my hair, and I will be making a video for that in the near future, so stay tuned. Alright, and now rolling in.
I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see, and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Released September 8, 1960, Alfred Hitchcock created a huge, cult classic in a way. Really kind of started, I dare say, the slasher, and just really put a huge mark in the horror movie industry. He came out with Psycho, his, grand picture of his time. Everyone knows him for that. And I just love it because it also stars one of the first Scream queen, Janet Leigh, who eventually had Jamie Lee Curtis, and we know her as the Scream Queen. So it's cool, this kind of cycle of Scream Queens in a way that all really started with Alfred Hitchcock. So for those who somehow still are not familiar with the whole plot summary of Psycho, basically, it runs down to you have a secretary in, I guess, Phoenix, played by Janet Leigh, and she gets caught stealing a good bit of money from her employer in order to run away with her boyfriend, who I think he's going through a divorce, but it's never really said if he's married, if he's cheating on his wife, whatever. You kind of see them start out at the beginning in a hotel room together, having an affair, essentially, just kind of hiding around and whatnot, and that kind of gives you the impression that, or to me anyway, I think he's still married and probably has a side, that's his side life. But anyway, she steals the money in hopes that she could run away with her boyfriend, and they could, he is in a lot of debt and stuff because of divorce and whatever. So she's thinking she could kind of get out of that hole a little bit and probably win him over, get married, and live a normal life or whatever. On her road trip doing that, though, she's overcome by exhaustion because, that's what happens when you are driving endlessly. And she is also caught into a heavy rainstorm and has to stop at the local motel on sort of the side of the main highway, or what was the main highway, just kind of on a back road at the Bates Motel. That is where she meets the kind of hotel manager, person in charge, Norman Bates, a young man with an interest in taxidermy and a difficult relationship with his mother. He also has a kind of interest, it seemed, with birds. Kind of funny how that sets up, future Hitchcock ideas. Norman Bates, once checking her into her room and everything and making small conversation with her, invites her to a light dinner and goes to the house, which is right beside the motel, and she, gets ready, all checked in. While doing all of that, she overhears Norman Bates and his mother kind of getting into a confrontation about her, and you can tell that Norman's mother is definitely mentally ill, to say the least. He comes back. She eats a light sandwich. He says he's not hungry, which to me is always weird. Like, he's the one who offered having a dinner in the first place, and then he's just going to come back with food for her. Like, the whole thing is just weird. But they have, like, light conversation, but then it kind of turns a little bit heavy. She kind of mentions slightly that, well, he's kind of asking her, being kind of nosy about what's she doing, where is she going, is she running, all those sort of things. And, you know, she says that he shouldn't let his mother talk to him that way or kind of take advantage or use him the way that she obviously does. And she kind of delicately suggests putting her, like, away in a home, and he gets very offended. And so they kind of, it gets a little heated after that, and luckily they politely end the conversation, and she goes about her business, he goes about his.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
But meanwhile, you see him kind of looking through a peephole into her room. Eventually, she starts, getting ready, I guess, and she showers, and then all of a sudden, a shadowy figure appears and ends up stabbing her to death while she's in the shower. After seeing blood, Norman panics and runs to her room where he discovers her body. He cleans up the crime scene, putting her corpse and her possessions into the trunk of her car and sinking it into the swamps near the motel. About a week later, her sister arrives to her boyfriend and the destination where he lives, trying to figure out her sister's whereabouts, that she hadn't seen her. And then at that point that they're meeting and talking, a private investigator also shows up, and they kind of go on the hunt for her missing sister. In that hunt, of course, they end up at the Bates Motel, and eventually, after confronting Norman Bates about what has gone on and all of this and that, the private investigator gets killed. After not hearing anything from the private investigator, the sister and boyfriend decide they are going to go searching for him in the motel as well. And when they do so, that's kind of when they stumble upon this whole Norman Bates dressing up like his mother and killing people. And you realize he has schizophrenia and, dresses up as his mom. I guess one of his many personalities is his mother. She died a few years back, and it's just kind of a coping mechanism, but he's also just kind of lost his mind, basically. And so that is kind of the summary of Psycho for those who are not familiar with it. I personally really like Psycho for several reasons. One, like I said earlier, it kind of shaped the way that horror was going, and it wasn't just monsters and kind of larger than life creatures, characters that you needed to be afraid of. It was just your local, person who owns a motel, or just like the boy next door, a person next door. Like, it could be anyone and everything, and that's kind of what Hitchcock did in a way. With his TV show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and everything, it really shaped and just changed psychological thriller in a way. It really opened up, minds of like a serial killer and things like that, which I've always found very fascinating, as I think a lot of us do, with, true crime stories being at the top of their game and everything right now. And I really like Psycho just because, again, it's one that my parents can watch. It's not too graphic for them, being in the 60s and all. It's a good plot that even they can appreciate. It's just good kind of for everyone in a weird sort of way. And I really love these movies where he sets up one plot going one way and then you're blindsided. So that was my kind of fun talk about Psycho. I'll see you next week.